Hey guys, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And I thought I'd get this one out here before the next episode of the Undertaker's Last Ride documentary is shown. So I'm here to talk about episode 1 of the documentary, which is called The Greatest Fear. And I've just finished watching it, and I have to say, hats off to the WWE. This has got to be the best documentary that they've put out on the network in a very, very long time. I found it to be very brutal, very refreshing, and very, very honest, and at times very emotional. And, you know, when they announced that Undertaker's career of the last 3 years was going to be documented for the network as a 5-part series, I was very surprised because Undertaker, aka Mark Calloway, is a very private guy. He very rarely does interviews. He very rarely has cameras show his life outside wrestling. So when this was confirmed that this was going to actually happen, I was very, very excited and very, very interested to see how this was going to play out. And having just finished watching it, it didn't disappoint once, and I really, really enjoyed it. And episode 1 covers mainly 3 days worth of footage before WrestleMania 33, where it looked like it was going to be his final match against Roman Reigns. So we basically got to see the cameras following him around. We got to see how he prepares and trains for his match, and all sorts of things we got to see. And basically we got to see what his life is like outside of WWE. And plus also we got to hear him talk about his debut at Survivor Series in 1990. We got to hear lots of cool stuff. We even got to hear from fellow legends like Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, JBL, Randy Orton, among others. So that was really, really cool. We even got to hear from good old JR. Love that guy, you know. If there's anybody I would rather hear stories about for hours and hours, it would definitely be JR. We even got to hear from Stone Cold Steve Austin as well. And we even got to hear from the boss himself, Vince McMahon, and his son Shane McMahon. It looks like to me that Undertaker's really starting to wind down his career. He's doing more interviews. He's more active on social media these days. He's even got his own Instagram account. I never thought I'd see that. And he recently appeared on Stone Cold's Broken Skull Sessions, which was thoroughly enjoyable. Highly recommend you check that out. It's really, really good. And we just kind of got to see more of Mark Calloway, the man. And one of my favourite parts of the documentary was when him and his wife arrived and he sees all the legends, and he joked by saying, "Oh, look at this, you know, it's looked like we're at an old timers convention," and everyone started laughing, and he hugged Shawn Michaels and he hugged Chris Jericho. And it's not hard to see why Undertaker, Mark Calloway, is so respected. He's a genuinely nice guy. He said hello to all the veterans, all the legends, even some of the young guys as well. We even got to see him say hello to The Miz. That was quite funny and brought back some memories of when he used to beat up The Miz every week on SmackDown. You know, so that was kind of cool to see. We got to see him hug Goldberg. We got to see him talk to Jericho, and, you know, just a really good vibe, and so refreshing to see that. I mean, I've always heard Undertaker's the most respected guy in the locker room and in the company, and we all know that's true, but to actually see that for ourselves live was just incredible, and it was really nice. So as we moved along during the documentary, got to hear about lots of different things. We got to hear, as I said, Mark talk about how he made the Undertaker character work, and he explains that work a very slow-paced kind of match, and then boom, out of nowhere hits a really explosive move. So the old saying, less is more, and that was what the Undertaker character was all about in the early years. And we got to see him when he won the WWF title from Hulk Hogan in 1991 at Survivor Series. We got to see lots of cool stuff. One of the big highlights for me of the documentary, one that certainly hit me really hard, was he addressed the concussion he sustained at WrestleMania 30 during his match with Brock Lesnar, which ironically was the night that the streak was broken. And he said that the concussion destroyed his confidence. That really hit it hard for me, because it's not something you'd hear a guy like Mark Calloway say, because he can be such a private guy. He keeps his feelings boxed in and just does his job, which is good because he's always been about that. But to actually hear him say the words, "My confidence was destroyed," really hurts and really saddened me. And we see him going through a number of surgeries and needles in his legs and knees, and it was very, very graphic and very, very uncomfortable to watch at times, because the Undertaker can be such a larger than life character, but behind the character he's a man, and time and age, Father Time catches up with everyone. And you even got to see some of the other fellow legends like Edge and Stone Cold saying that Father Time keeps patting us on the shoulder and he's waiting for you to turn around and then you say to you that I think it's time now. And it is true, you never really know when the time is. When is the time? That was the question that was asked throughout the documentary. When is the time to walk away? And they really played on that a lot throughout the documentary. I liked the comments that Bret Hart said about Taker. He said that he was like Frankenstein. You couldn't do much to him. And I thought that was a really nice way to describe the Undertaker character, especially in those early years. And he talked about how the streak allowed him to work once a year because he couldn't work a full-time schedule anymore. And we got to hear from Triple H as well, and I thought it was nice that we got to hear a little bit from Hunter's perspective. He was saying that I can relate to how he feels, because when you're working a match once or twice a year, there's a very high expectations. Can I perform and still perform at the level that people know me for? So I can relate to him. So you can really see there's a lot of great love and respect between Undertaker and Triple H, and we got to see that quite a lot as well. We even got to see him rehearsing his entrance and things like that, so that was quite interesting to see. And got to hear a bit from Roman Reigns, who we thought was likely to be his final opponent. And it's quite funny that when you see Undertaker arrive at the hotel and you see Roman Reigns is right there next to him checking in, and he jokes to Roman, "Really? You can't keep kayfabe for 10 minutes?" So it's kind of nice that they can have a little joke at things like that, and Roman's like, "Screw your cameraman." So that was really, really funny. And I like how Jim Cornette and Jimmy Hart call Undertaker the Santa Claus of wrestling. It's like, "Oh, you're like Santa Claus. You only come like once a year, and you look great." And it's really nice to see. And yeah, I mean, the match itself with Roman Reigns, I mean, I've seen it. I saw it live with my friends and their neighbour, and as an Undertaker fan, wasn't the greatest match, and he even acknowledges that it wasn't his best. And you can clearly see how much he cares about what the fans think, and he goes on to say that I want the fans to walk out of WrestleMania and say, that was the best match I ever saw. That was the best match of the night, and you can really see how much that means to the Undertaker, and you can really see how loyal he is, not just to the fans but to Vince and the company. You know, he really wants to give it his all, give it his absolute best, and he even acknowledges on several occasions, you know, that I want to live up to expectations. You know, I want to be able to hang with these young guys, because if I can't hang with these guys, then I have no business being in that ring. So you can really see how loyal he is to a fault, and he really, really cares, and that is made very, very clear throughout the documentary from start to finish. And another emotional moment was when we see that scene where he lays his hat down and his jacket and his gloves, and you're seeing the camera pan to members of the audience just crying their eyes out. He is so loved by everybody. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a wrestler who's more loved and respected by everyone more than The Undertaker. And we got to see that here, and yeah, it was really nice. And got to hear from his wife, Michelle McCool, and she's been like a rock to him, and it's not hard to see why. I mean, aside from being, you know, a very attractive lady, you know, she's such a lovely, down-to-earth person, and, you know, she's been with him through all this craziness, and we got to see that here again. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this a lot, and yeah, I'm quite interested to see episode 2 of the Last Ride documentary. I think it's going to be equally as good as episode 1. And I'm really hoping we get to hear from guys like Brock Lesnar, Kane. I know we got to hear from Kurt Angle a little bit here. I'd like to hear more from him. You know, I'd like to hear more from others as well. You know, there's so many different guys they could speak to. And with that all said, I'm going to wrap this up now. I'm going to leave this here for you guys. What did you think of Chapter 1 of the Last Ride documentary? Do you think it was good? Do you think it lived up to expectations? Are you excited for episode 2 of the documentary? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time. So till then, take care everybody and stay safe.